Hello, Ken Lane here, API Evangelist for another one of my API conversations with interesting folks who are doing interesting things with APIs. Let's not waste any time. Let's dive right in and see who we have today. Hello, who are you?
Hey, Ken. Yeah, I'm Asanka Abeysinghe, CTO at WSO2. Good to talk to you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. We've definitely had plenty of conversations over the years. And you were one of the I would say I did probably about 160 podcasts at Postman, and you're one of the ones that never quite kept getting pushed back. And so I'm very thankful to have you back here talking. And so we didn't even like prep for this. I just want to understand what's top of mind for you right now? We kind of dove into it a little bit, but what's important to you right now?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of things happening and then a lot of noise out there, but we are very focused on what really the enterprise is looking for, and then what exactly the architects and the product teams inside these enterprises are looking at. So, again, like main focus that these days about platforms, I think everybody working on platforms, everybody building platforms, and as a result, platform engineering has become a hot topic. But then again, the problem is, are we delivering what enterprise is looking for? And there are two sides to the story, right? The provider of the platform and the consumer of the platform. And what we have seen, the consumers are not getting what they are looking for, uh, even though the platform engineering teams are putting a lot of efforts to build these platforms. And then again, API and API management has become a core part of this story as well. So that's what I thought of discuss with you, since you are mainly focusing on API and API management side. And what's the link between platforms, and what's our viewpoint on this?
Yeah. So a couple of things I want to hit you with there. So let's roll it back and start with the basics. What does it mean to be building an API platform?
Yeah. So I think in my view, like you need a internal developer platform, and API platform is part of that, because isolating an API platform will not provide the full benefit for the application developers um, who consume the APIs, and then providers who's building the APIs and providing it to the application developers to consume it. So that's where I'm coming from. Like, without isolating it, make it part of the woodwork, and then make it accessible, self-service capability, a platform service that people can easily access. To answer your question, what does it mean by a API platform? Basically, having the full life cycle embedded into the platform, from the designing to you deprecate an API that handle the entire life cycle of an API, um, and give that capability within the platform for various user personas that we get in this particular exercise.
Yeah, I like the way that you separated it out there and focus on the internal developer platform. And then to kind of bring it back to what you were saying is we're not always delivering what the consumers of these platforms are needing. And I feel like we're at this intersection of several, I would call, I mean, they're real movements and they're real things, but they're also very vendor-led narratives around API management, which is where you and I know each other from. That's been, full life cycle, bundled, unbundled. There's a lot of concepts around what is API management. And then you have kind of DevOps and this other area running its course. And you have these things colliding at this moment we're in right now. And like what I get why we're doing the API platform, but what do people actually need that we're under delivering on?
Yeah. So the problem that I see, the complexity, because there's a massive complexity that we have to deal with. One, from the infrastructure side, right? Kubernetes is great, but then again, running a Kubernetes cluster in um, uh, production setup is not that easy. Not everybody can do that. And then again, it has become an ecosystem, right? A lot of things are connected to this infrastructure layer. So mainly the application developers are dealing with that layer, not focusing on the application layer. So that's the main problem. That's why we have to hide that complexity using some kind of an abstraction, and abstractions are everywhere, right? In computer science, and abstractions are great. So that abstraction that we need to hide that complexity is the internal development platform. So we hide that complexity and become platformless. Basically, you have a platform, but you are not dealing with the platform, rather you consume it. Even in serverless, there are servers, but then again, we are not dealing with the servers, right? So same thing that we think should happen in the enterprise, that developers and application development teams should not focus on the platform, rather focus on consuming the platform capabilities. And there's a problem, Kin, as you said, depending on various vendors, how they position this thing. Unfortunately, internal developer platforms are mainly focusing on operational side and the delivery for. But we think, yes, you need that, but you need something more than that. You need enterprise software engineering capabilities embedded with that operational and delivery capabilities. When you look at the enterprise software engineering capabilities, that's where API management coming on how you can make it easy to expose API, because API is the standard way of you communicate, right? Internally as well as externally. It can be some kind of a format. I think we debate about REST, we debate about SOAP, we debate about GraphQL. It doesn't matter. I think what we need is the correct style and correct type of APIs, but it has to be a managed API that you expose these business capabilities to the consumers to consume. And if we can bring that to the platform, I would say push it down to the platform. So that way we have that API management capabilities embedded in the platform so everybody can easily consume it without worrying too much about this operational aspect of API management.
Ah, so you and I have been talking about this stuff for the last decade, for a while now. What's the biggest obstacle in our way from making the delivery of APIs truly easier? And not just APIs, API products that business and technical people care about. What's the biggest obstacle that's still in the way that we need to deal with?
Yeah. So one thing is that the technical aspect of it, right? The API management as a service, or the API management as a self-service capability available within the enterprise. It's one problem that I see, because still people trying to figure it out. How I create API, how I am going to release it. And then again, even the discovery. Still, it's not there, right? We are speaking about developer portals, marketplaces for a longer time. But then again, still it is not well established. That's why, like, we need to be that those capabilities part of the platform, and then have that easy access to the producers as well as consumers. That is one. And number two, blindly getting into conclusions. As example, when GraphQL came into the picture, I have seen some of the enterprises that they are telling, I'm going to expose all my APIs on Graph. Why? Because it's cool. Okay. But then again, I think we have to use the correct style at the correct place. As example, GraphQL is great for data related APIs, I would say. And I think still REST is very powerful when it comes to application developers, because the problem with GraphQL without knowing the data model, how can an application developer consume it? And sometimes the application developers, they don't have a clue about the data models within the organization. So if we provide it as a simple REST API, it would have been very easy for the application developers. I think those are the two main I think barriers that I have seen, that API management is not available to access, as well as jumping into these type of conclusions without looking at the real problem and finding a proper solution for that problems that they see inside the enterprise.
Yeah, agreed. I can't agree enough after my last couple of journeys, Postman and Bloomberg. I'm 100% focused on HTTP APIs and web hooks and the governance of those, nothing more. And you can do it. You can govern, you can standardize, you can provide management for these other. But as you said, GraphQL is often, I've seen too often, a distraction for companies from actually learning and doing REST or HTTP APIs well. Kafka often in WebSockets becomes a distraction from doing webhooks well. And so I feel like uh, technologists, as engineers, have left to our own devices, will always chase that next new shiny object. And we need more pragmatic business stakeholders involved in the conversation. So my next question for you is, do business people in 2025 almost, do they care about APIs enough?
Yes, I think they will and they have to, because anyway, a lot of things happening, right? One, like delivering value, because value has become the key for everybody. How we can deliver more value as technical teams, and I think API is the more kind of the center of everything. How you can deliver business values, because composability is the key, right? How you can quickly build new business models comes with the technology hand in hand. And if you have these APIs available, you can build new business models quickly and then deliver it to your end users. So that's number one. And then again, I know AI is completely distraction, but then again, how you wisely use it within the enterprise is another thing, right? And I think there are two things. One is how you can bring AI augmented software engineering. That's where like we can use some of the AI capabilities to govern the APIs from design time to runtime. And then the number two, how you build AI driven applications. Again, API is the key for all this stuff, right? And we were speaking about ingress for a long time, but now egress going to be a bigger part as well. How you call outside the enterprise, how you kind of find the correct models, how you monetize these APIs, how you throttle these APIs. All these requirements are required to the enterprise. So I think it's going to be more focused and bring more value to the business in 2025 more than ever. So I think focus will shift back and we will more focus on the APIs again. And I think as technologists, we have a bigger role to play when it comes to API management and how we can deliver value to the business through APIs.
Agree. I like it. All right. One last one for you. Who has more power, API producers or API consumers within the enterprise?
Ah, good question. So I think both, because without the consumer, no point of having producers, right? And then consumers can't survive without producers. So I think it's a combination and it's a teamwork. And producers should provide what consumers require, and then consumers should request from the producers what they are looking for. I think this marketplace concept is pretty cool, right? When you go to a real marketplace, it's a conversation with the producers and consumers. And we need to have that conversation within the enterprise without working as silos. And I think as the management teams, what the management should do, provide that environment to have this conversation and then provide useful APIs, because having 100 of APIs without consuming, it doesn't work, right? So you need consume the APIs, and you have to this iterative approach, like iterate, and then give valuable APIs for the consumers, and consumers should give the providers that feedback and make it work for the business. I think it's go hand in hand and it's a teamwork.
Agree. I agree. APIs aren't a one way street. That's in their name. It's an interface. It's by design. So can't agree more. Excellent answer, and I appreciate you coming by and chatting with me. This has been fun.
Yeah, indeed. It's always good to have a chat, and it's very useful. And thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Very cool. I literally just threw him in, didn't prep before, and ask what was top of mind because I know he can handle it, and I actually find it with folks like him, it's better off to just throw them in, and because they're pros at this and they get what's going on, and I always love hearing the answers. All right, everyone. Thanks. Talk to you later.